Welcome to the Road to Real Estate podcast with Jonathan and Lauren and your co-host Cass.
Awesome. We're going to put on that title screen right now, but remember to like, subscribe, hit the follow and notification bells. See you in a couple seconds.
Welcome to the Road to Real Estate podcast, where Jon and Lauren help you grow your real estate business. Enjoy the show.
So, Lauren, what are we going to give away next week?
Next week we are finally giving away our Yeti cooler, our You Summer Ready Yeti cooler, our Roadie 24. And so we have the link below, so enter into the raffle and you can win.
Easy peasy, folks. This week we're going to talk about the top questions of 2025 pertaining to real estate. So Lauren's got a big list on her side, and she's going to read them off, and we're going to go back and forth as we answer them.
Sounds great. Say bye, Cass.
Isn't he great, folks?
Yay!
Give us an extra like just for Cass. And if you like, leave a comment, see if we can get him back for another episode. He's in high demand right now.
High demand.
So after we give our Road to Real Estate cooler away, we have to figure out what we want to give away next. So comment below or message us, and we're going to go ahead and get into our first question. Lauren, what's the top question for us today?
Yeah, we have the top 12 things that are Googled by normal humans in the world about real estate. And so the number one question that people are Googling right now, this is the most Googled question in 2025, is what is the best time to buy a home in 2025, which is a really great question. We changed presidents this year, interest rates, a demand has changed. We're finally at a balanced market where we have more inventory, and people are saying, what is the best time to buy a home? What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, I guess it depends on your life situation. If you're moving for work or your kids just got out of school this last week and you want to be in a new school system for next year, I guess the answer is now. Like I said, everyone's situation is different. I don't think if you're trying to time the market and waiting for an interest rate change or something like that to happen, it's not really a great way to go about it. I think everything's pretty even right now as far as pricing and interest rates and everything. We're not super high. We're not super low. We're kind of right in the middle, and the market tells us that, right? We have more inventory than we've had for a couple of years, and things are sitting on the market a little bit longer. So I think it's not a buyer's market, but it's not a seller's market like it used to be, like we've had for the last few years. So I think it's a good time is right now, actually. I
think you're exactly right, Jonathan. For the first time in 5 years, we have a balanced market. And so we determined that, and this is, we're talking about specifically the Georgia area, but I think over many of the states, you guys have felt this as well, that for the first time, we have inventory that buyers can choose from since probably about 2020. The first time in 5 years, buyers have choices. It's not just here are the homes, pick them this weekend because they'll be gone. They finally have choices. And we do have a numerical evaluation for this. Once we have a certain absorption rate, which talks about number of contracts versus actives on the market, that we have 6 months supply and inventory. And that's where we are right now. And so the best time to buy a home is when you're ready. Right now, everything is great. Prices are not, they have either softened a little or they're flat. Our interest rates, we've been here at this interest rate for 2 years now. Like, this is our interest rate. We are good and we are solid. And it's time to figure out when you need to move. If it needs to be before school gets in, now. If it's before the end of the year, maybe in a couple months. But as soon as you're ready, it's the time.
Yeah. Your life will tell you when it's time. Most times it's a life situation that causes us to want to move or to move. And like I said, it's not a bad time to be forced to buy a house. There have been worse times.
There's been much worse times, yeah. Interest rates in the 80s were like almost 20%, 6% is not.
And that's the thing. We get so caught up on, oh my goodness, we're at 6%. Although I've done 2 contracts in the last couple of weeks and we're below 6. Both of them came in at 5.7.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in our area, obviously it's going to fluctuate a little bit from depending on where you live, but we're below 6. I think that should make a lot of people happy. I think to hang on to the days when we had 2.25 at the beginning of the pandemic is not realistic.
But the second question is, what will interest rates be in 2025? Which
Okay.
goes hand in hand with what we were just saying,
Yeah.
that we're really expecting to be kind of flat. I mean,
Yeah,
a
we're
significant
gonna
change
have
in interest rate would be a game changer for our whole industry, and I don't see the government doing that at this point.
theoretically it should be fairly level. We might lose a point or two, like 0.1 or 0.2, something like that. Not a huge difference, unless of course there's unforeseen pandemic around the horizon. Like it would take a major thing to do anything crazy for our numbers. I know it can be scary watching the stock market, but the interest rate doesn't change as much as the stock market.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we follow the interest rate follows the T-bills, and so that's something that if you follow, you can watch that. But question number 3: how can I improve my credit score to buy a home in 2025? So, blanket statement: we are not financial advisors, but there are some things that you can do just to improve your credit score that are very simple that we can tell you right now.
Yeah, of course.
I know. What would you say, Jonathan?
For my number one is debt to income ratio. That's a major factor. I believe it's 45%. It has to be below 45% to be approved for a home loan. So if you got some credit cards that are past that mark, you want to get them below that. Perfect world, no debt, but 45 is the number we aim for. You get it below half, that shows that you're spending responsibly. And then what would you do? What's yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think paying off any kind of debt that you can, specifically revolving credit card debt, is really important. If you have any discrepancies, right? If something was reported wrong, or there's a problem or question on your credit, go ahead and dispute those, get those out of the way. That typically takes like 90 days or so. Make sure that you're making all your payments on time, whether that's for your car, your rent, or mortgage. On-time payments can boost your credit score. And just make sure that you don't have a bunch of little kind of dumb things, right? Like you want to make sure that they're paid off and that they happen. You also want to build credit. If you don't have credit, you want to build credit. I've heard people saying like, hey, I could pay for my car in cash, but I financed it so that I can show a record of me making payments on time. Yeah. And so those are, not, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a car. However, establishing credit is a really strong thing that you need to do, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and maybe don't have as much.
Yeah, it can be a huge pain, but after you get your credit report, anything that's negative on there, you can actually call the creditor or the people that have put that ding. Like, for instance, say you missed a payment a year ago on one of your credit cards. Generally, they're good about fixing it if you take the time to pick up the phone and go, hey, listen, I'm making a transition in my life, da-da-da-da-da, tell them what you're going through. And as long as you're not a repeat offender, they're usually more than happy to assist you and take that off of your history. They can clean that up for you. It's them who put it on there. It's them that can take it off. It can be a pain if you have a lot of them, but taking the time and calling each one of those people and going through that, it's worth it. It'll change a lot. You'll be amazed at how fast your score can go up by taking a couple of past mistakes. But obviously, if you just did it and you've done it over and over again and they're recent, so obviously going to be a tougher conversation and they may not help you. But if it was something you did a year or so ago and it was a one-time thing, they have no problems removing that blemish.
Right. No, that's a great point. And I'm going to throw out there right now that you need to be really careful of people that say they can fix your credit. There are a lot of predatory groups and agencies and people out there. And so credit repair is an available tool for you. However, you need to make sure that they're not over promising and or charging you a lot.
Just taking money.
Most lenders will help you figure it out without charging you anything.
Mm-hmm. It's something that can be done for free. So paying someone else to do it is, in general, just know, even if they do what they say they're going to do, they're taking money from you for nothing. It's literally a couple phone calls on your own and you get the same results. So when you see these companies charging thousands, it's insane. Debt consolidation companies are also very predatory. I'd be very wary of them as well.
Yeah.
They're making your bills look like they're less, but just remember, they're making their pay and all your bills are still going to get paid as well. So be very, very careful with that stuff. And obviously, the more you need that kind of assistance, the more predatory companies are going to be coming at you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, but we see it in some of the groups of people that need help the most get scammed the most. And so that's why you want to be very careful. So after credit score, what are the best real estate investment opportunities in 2025?
So I think anything that is multifamily is the way to go.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of softening of prices within multifamily. We've also seen second home prices soften a little bit, commercial properties. Those are are where we see some advantages. There's very little margin right now in primary homes, or like your first home. There's too many people trying to get in at that price point. So we see it's a little bit tough there. Sometimes technology and demographic shifts can make a change in that. But right now, it's really kind of second home and rental homes that we see that have prices softening, multifamily. There's a lot of commercial coming on the market, but it's a little bit, you have to have the vision for what it could be, because we're seeing a change in regime for commercial right now. So there are some investment opportunities there. But I would
Actually,
do that with caution.
Had a realtor come actually buy something from my dad the other day, and her thing was that's all she does is multifamily. And that's the thing she told him to tell me, like, start buying multifamily. It's like, okay. So all right, I guess that's what we'll do. I mean,
done. It's just that easy, right?
Yeah, it's just easy.
Somebody told me to do it, so I just did it. Yeah,
so yeah,
there you
easy
go.
Peasy.
Yeah, so multifamily does have a lot of options. There's always a need for multifamily housing, and I think that's what creates that space. And so depending on what type of multifamily, where you're buying it, you just have different opportunities. So number 5, the fifth most Googled real estate question in 2025, what is the future of remote work and housing preferences? This made a big deal because when COVID came and everybody was able to work remotely, we saw a mass exodus from the city centers. Our suburbs became, way more full, and even the more rural areas became suburbs, right? We really, urban sprawled a little extra. But as people have been required to come into work, suddenly they're going, did I make the right decision? Am I in the right place? Where do I need to be? And so what do you think, John?
Well, I think now we're 5 years out from the pandemic. I feel like if your job has already made that decision, I'm not saying your job can't change its mind, but if you're working remote right now with your current job, chances are that isn't going to change unless, of course, they see a financial reason to make that change. So I think most people that have gone back to work in a physical location have already made that transition. So you're probably pretty even. It's not like there's going to be a big decision tomorrow. Having said that, every company is looking at their bottom line, and their decision is going to be based off of how it's affecting their income. If they find that you're more productive, or most of their employees are more productive in an office, you're going to eventually end up back in that office, But obviously there's other things to weigh against that, because your commercial spaces all cost money. So then there's heat and insurance and all sorts of stuff. So they're weighing that against what it costs to have you work remotely. I don't see a huge change coming in that, but obviously every business is going to be a little different.
And, on the flip side of that, on the real estate side of it, a lot of neighborhoods and new construction really focused in on amenities and lifestyle versus just the houses. We saw, there's a big trend away from offering pool and tennis courts or playgrounds for kids. And now we've kind of shifted the other way, where it's a pool. It's a place you want to be. There might be a fire pit, like a really cool fire pit with chairs and, circle, not just like a grill, right? You might have a lake in the neighborhood. You might have walking trails. Like we saw the switch from, okay, you're gonna move further out from the city, but you're gonna have a lifestyle you want. And so we do see that builders putting lifestyle things more into the houses. And so that's kind of interesting to see how work and lifestyle, and it's changed, that people are willing to drive farther, because once they get home, everything is right there that they want. Their walking trails, their lake, their their swimming pool, whatever they're into. And we're seeing a lot more of the building happening. And so it is causing people to move further out for that lifestyle. Regardless of if they have to go in once or twice a month, right?
Yeah.
Question number 6. How will climate change affect real estate prices in 2025? Now, side note, we're not getting political here. This is something that this is the number 6 Googled question about real estate in 2025. So this is what people have put out there. I guess we probably have different views of it. I have never lived really close to the ocean, but you lived in Florida, Jonathan. You have a different perspective of that, right?
Yeah, of course. It definitely is changing from a person that lived next to the water for 20 years. When we first moved to Florida, there's a little strip on the other side of the intercoastal called Manalapan, and that's where all the $20 million homes and up are, the big expensive homes. And now we have one or two king tides a year where they go not underwater completely, but water touches the foundation, we'll say it that way, where the tide comes up so high that it basically connects the intercoastal to the ocean, which is not good for the long term of those homes. And then also it happens in Miami too. So now it's actually changed the way we construct, because those are such valuable pieces of property. They're finding different ways to protect those properties and create new effective ways to allow that king tide to happen, but still make them usable. And and it's not just Florida. It's not that, global warming, people think, oh, well, everything's getting warmer. But what it does is it causes instability in the polar vortex. So what happens is you have extreme bands of weather. Even though you might feel like your temperature's not changed, it allows for a more extreme weather pattern to come through. So in our area here, it's not that it's getting warmer, but we get more fluctuations. We'll get more snow out of nowhere because the polar band is less stable, and it can throw, what is it called, a polar blast down through the middle of the U.S. and affect us, which allows for more extreme tornadoes, stuff like that. So you get more extreme weather patterns, bigger shifts.
Yeah, and I think that thinking about climate change, a lot of people were impacted this year about the fires in California. We saw some big tornadoes in Texas, in Tennessee. Didn't Tennessee have a big tornado as well? I think that there's weather and environmental factors every time you go somewhere. And whenever you have a huge disaster, like, was it 5 years ago when Florida was hit by like 3 or 4 major hurricanes all
up the West Coast.
1 year? That affects your insurance prices. That affects building materials. It affects building code. So even if you are on the side of it where you don't believe in climate change, or you don't want to acknowledge the climate change, there is a financial impact to weather in real estate. Even when you come to, it always cracks me up because we have people that come here from Florida and they look at our roof and they go, "What did you put on your roof? These are not hurricane rated shingles."
Yeah.
And we do have hurricanes in Georgia, but by the time they get to us, they're almost more like a tropical storm.
Yeah.
We do have tornadoes, but they're further and farther between. We're a hilly terrain, so they don't sustain the same way they do on somewhere like the plains, right in the middle of America. And so we have a very different building. I've had people come from Canada, and they are appalled that we don't have 3-pane windows because of the heat and that they need to keep in the house, and the cold they need to keep out the house. They need a thicker, more thermal window than we do. So your location really makes a difference to what is required.
Yeah, coming from different areas before I was into real estate kind of blew my mind when I started looking at houses here. Because like in Florida, we build for a hurricane, so concrete block, hurricane windows, hurricane doors, strapped on roofs, hurricane shingles. Then in New England, we use 2x10s in our rafters because they have to hold the weight of snow. So when I come here and I see rafters with 2x4s, it's like, this is really thin.
What you doing over here, guys?
Like,
did anybody tell you?
Is this the code? Because this blows my mind. There's almost nothing holding this, So depending on where you live, what is required of your home is so completely different. Which always, it's just, I can't believe it when I go home. Like, I can't believe this, but you got to change your mindset. I'm not gonna get 3 feet of snow ever here. It's not a thing. I think any of that. But what happens is when that weather travels, like with all the hurricanes that came through, we had a hurricane that did a lot of damage last year to Georgia. And in my head, I'm like, why it went through Florida, and was strong in Florida. And then when it came through Georgia, I was like, why is it doing way more damage now that it's a weak storm? They're like, oh yeah, because hurricanes don't happen that often. And because they don't happen, we don't build for that, So it's weird how it affects different areas.
Well, and we also have very large trees. And so one of the things that happens is depending on how the trees, if we have a lot of rain, the ground is softer and trees are more likely to fall over. A lot of our damage from hurricanes are based around trees, which in Florida you have trees, but not like we have trees. And so, it's just interesting how there's different things in different places. But the important part is just to remember that your insurance, your building materials, your pricing essentially for your houses will be based on some of the things that happen regardless of where your climate is. Every climate has its own thing, and you'll be able to see that reflected in some pricing. Let's move on to number 7. What are the top smart home trends for 2025?
So I don't know if you're talking integrated systems or not, because I don't know much about integrated systems, but obviously we've talked about this in previous podcasts. So when it comes to showing houses and stuff like that, like always be aware of, Ring doorbells are on every house or some other competitive company. And on top of that, smart home systems are getting more and more integrated. I think we have a couple lights in this house that are connected to our smart home. So I don't know which ones. Something my wife's into. For you guys that don't know it, I'm very anti-AI in terms of I grew up watching Terminator, guys. So I have unrealistic fears
Of artificial intelligence?
as this house makes the slow transition. Resist it. I refuse to talk to it. I don't ask
Get
it for anything. But we do have, I think, a Siri or a Google. I can't remember which. I know my wife has Google Nest, and she uses her phone to change the heat and everything else inside the house. I don't. I touch it manually.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a lot of smart home trends. I think that you hit the nail on the head. The thermostat. Almost every thermostat now has some Wi-Fi enabled feature. I think that's a very interesting and really good one. We were talking about it last night at dinner with some of our neighbors, and we were comparing what we do. And so, like, we have an eco feature where the electric company can actually turn our thermostat up or down based on what the consumption around us is, and we get a rebate on our bill because we let the company do that. Now, if we're home and it's 90 degrees in our house and we want more air conditioning, we can manually override it, but that's something that becomes a credit to us on our bill. And if we're not home or if we don't notice, then no problem. It works for us. So I think that the thermostat was kind of the first thing that we all integrated, and that was just very easy. If you think of home automation and home trends, smart home trends, I also go back to 1985 when everybody had the music and sound speaker system. Not everybody, but you made it if you had the music and sound system, and then you could click it. Yeah, intercom. So those were home trends back in the day, and I still see them in houses to this day. I still see them in houses. However, I think voice activated searches. We have several Alexa and things around our house, our television. And so having the place where you have the connectivity is really important. I've had some home searches where people look for only homes they have.
Yeah, I get it.
There's different, especially if you're working from home, you need a certain speed, you have a certain expectation. I have some people who say their jobs require that if they're going to be working from home. So fiber makes a difference. I see light switches. You were talking about that you try to avoid it. But one builder, I believe it's D.R. Horton, they're a national builder. They are putting in these light switches that you can change them out interchangeably, and they all have Wi-Fi attached to them. And you instead of having to call an electrician and get a whole new outlet put in, they're actually plug-ins and pull-outs. So I would rather be a dial, like a rheostat, and so you just click it out and buy that one and click it in, and now you have an adjustable dimmer, right?
That's cool.
What else do we see? A lot of telephones, a lot of televisions, a lot of speakers, front doors. Do you have a digital lock on your front door?
Yeah, we have that too, and it's Wi-Fi connected too.
Yeah, we had, like I said, we had some friends for dinner last night, and we were outside, and somebody tried to go in the front door, and our front door automatically locks. And from my phone, I just tapped the app, and I unlocked it. She could walk right in.
Yeah, we have that.
Garage doors. Garage doors are now Wi-Fi. Attached to your phone, you can open and close it. Click, click, click. Super, super easy. And so I'm seeing a lot of these kind of things. Of course, like Jonathan said, cameras are a big one. We see that all the time, especially with our sellers. We have to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
So those are some things you can look at. But some people are going even deeper with it, where they actually have the whole house wired to one box, essentially one computer, where they have the alarm system, the speakers, the door, the windows, the thermostat, and it has like one central location. And we're seeing that more and more and more. So I do
Actually,
think that that's a trend that's happening.
something I haven't figured an answer for, and I'll just bring it up and throw it out here in the middle of this podcast. So we just closed on a house, and it came with one of the Yale door locks, and it's a phenomenal system, but they didn't leave a user manual or anything for it. So we just have the one code that they gave us on selling a house. So we're trying to figure out how to reprogram it. So we're doing lots of Google searches, and we may end up having to just get a whole new system and put on the door and starting from scratch, because we don't have any of the information that came with the lock. So we don't know how to, because obviously we don't want them to have the code to their house forever, So we have to figure out how to do that. So there is some stuff that comes along with buying a house with all this technology. If you don't know how to use it and they don't leave user manuals, it can be tough.
Yeah, and you just throw out like a name brand that you can Google.
Yeah.
As we increasingly have, companies from Amazon that may or may not be, recognizable names, that kind of door lock might be harder to Google than, so like at least you have Yale, you have a brand name, you have something that makes sense.
But you still need that like initial master pin that comes with the lock to be able to get into it to adjust it. So we don't know if we have the master pin or not. We're going to find out once they get fully moved in and their Wi-Fi and stuff is on and it's connected, because it has to be connected to Wi-Fi as well. And then we have to download apps and try and figure this thing out. So if not, we got to get a new lock.
Isn't that interesting? Your lock has to be connected to Wi-Fi to change it. So crazy, right? Like, yeah. So what are the smart home trends? Yeah, those are the home trends. We're seeing those. I mean, I even see when we were at CES, or no, excuse me, not CES, the Builder Show, IBS International Builder Show this year. We were so surprised about what was coming with Wi-Fi and what was communicating with you, like your ovens, your refrigerator. My husband has a thermometer when he grills, and his grill talks to his phone and tells him what temperature the meat is.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff you can do, and it's integrated more and more and more because the appliances we're putting in.
Yeah,
and everything we're
refrigerators
putting
have
into
gone
it.
that way too. They even will self-order now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying one of those, but they will, and they can.
Yeah, my self-ordering refrigerator might judge me. Like, okay, fatty, do you need some more ice cream?
The answer is yes, by the way.
Always
It's
more
always
ice
yes
cream.
to ice cream. Yeah.
But I do love my lights. We have installed some new lights, and I love the fact that I can turn them on and off from my phone, especially in bed. Remember old technology, the clapper?
Oh yeah.
It's like the new version of the clapper. I was trying to explain that to my kid the other day.
My favorite thing is just watching my wife sit next to the remote and then have her talk to Siri like 5 times saying, "Hey, turn off the TV. Hey, turn off the TV." I'm like, just hit the button. It's right there. It already be off, and she'll say it like 5 times. There's an accent thing for those of you guys who don't know. It's great. Like, it's just easier to hit the button, but she refuses.
Yeah, my remote is on my phone also, so I'm bad at that. Let's move on. Number 8. How much should I save for a down payment in 2025?
The more, the better.
Yeah.
Are we looking for real percentages here? Because there's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
depending
a
on the
VA
loan you're going
loan
for.
may not need any down payment, right? You might have some.
Nothing for VA, 3.5
FHA.
for FHA.
Don't forget the 0.5. I told that
I did
story.
a 0.5. I got it.
I know, not you. I mean, people. People don't forget the 0.5.
Oh yeah, it comes up, and then conventional. I think the lowest you can go on for conventional now is 3, and then obviously just know the lower down payment you have. I don't know this on VA, so I'm not going to answer for VA on this one. They will probably put more mortgage insurance on top of it, so it's a little additional payment until you pay 20% of that loan off. So,
Yeah.
or obviously your home value could technically increase to where it becomes 80% of the value of what you owe is what the number they're going for. So your equity can increase because your home value changes, or you can pay your loan down either way. But obviously the more you can pay up front, the lower your monthly payment is, the easier it is to live in your home. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think that there are some specific programs that you can put in place, that they put in place. I think there's a doctor's program that, doesn't look at your student loans and has like a lower down payment you can do. And so there are a lot of different programs, but the reality is a strong down payment is one of the best ways to look good. And if you're able to have that down payment and use that self-control to be able to save up that money, you're going to be in a much better position, even if you don't need to use all of it, to have that cushion. Most of the time, lenders need 6 months of payments in your bank account in order to get you approved anyway. And so the more cushion you have, the more loanable you look.
And also, not just from your creditor's side of things, when you're putting an offer on a home, they do line up all the offers together and go, well, this person clearly can afford to put this money down. Then it gives them an idea of how likely you are to get that loan on the back end. Because if you're putting down a bare minimum, say 3.5% FHA, and then the next person's going, I'm putting 35% down and I'm doing a conventional loan, when they line that up, I'm not saying they're going to choose the 35% over the 3.5, but it helps sell you to the seller. Does that make sense? When they look at it like, this seems more secure, more likely to happen. This person at 3.5, if we underappraise, what are the chances they have the money to cover that gap? Whereas the person that's putting down 35% on the loan, if it underappraises a little bit, you can usually meet in the middle. It just seems safer to the person selling the home, because the last thing you want to do is take your house off the market, be off the market for 2.5, 3 weeks just to have it go back on the market. It always gives a weird stigma to the house, because everyone that's been looking at houses goes, what happened there? Did something go wrong in the inspection? What's wrong with that house? Why is it back on the market? It gives you this weird stigma to some, I'm not gonna say everybody, to some buyers. Whereas, so when you go under contract and you're looking at pulling your house off the market, you're looking for the most surefire bet to not have to go back on the market and start over again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. That's, the stigma is actually really important. So yeah. So look for down payment assistance programs, but also try to save up as much as you can, because it'll help you just to be more loanable. I don't know if that's the picture. Okay,
you don't want to use every last cent to get into a house, and then you get that first mortgage and realize, okay, now we're house poor because it's costing us every penny every month to try and keep up with this payment because you didn't put enough down on the home. And so obviously the more you can put down up front, the smaller your payment's going to be and the happier you'll feel.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's move to question number 9. What are the new tax laws for homeowners in 2025?
I don't know any of these.
So what I would say is that taxes, when it comes to real estate, are very localized. And so you need to look into it. One major change that I know in our area is in Forsyth County this year. So Forsyth County has had an influx of multi-generational families moving into houses. And traditionally, if you had someone in the home over 65, you did not pay school tax. But as the trend of multi-generational families have moved into that area, they can no longer support the school system because that same family might have 2 kids or 4 kids, or, they're using the money of the school system. So now they have changed the law. It's not about only a senior living in the house. If a senior lives in the house and kids live in the house, you have to pay the school taxes as long as you have a kid.
That makes sense.
School age in the house. So that was a change that we saw in 2025 in Forsyth. And that's what I would tell you. You just need to look local for that. That's a county, that's a city, whatever municipality you have, as well as state laws. Just be up on them, because they change drastically. I mean, here in Georgia, on average, I tell people when they move here, your tax is about 1% per year. So a $400,000 house, that's about $4,000 a year. That is not the case in other places, especially if you go up north or go down to Florida. The taxes go way, way up.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if Jonathan, I don't know, Florida, do you remember what the percentage was?
What I can tell you is we were homesteaded, and the way they homestead in Florida is better than Georgia. But the problem is we moved to Georgia and we removed our homestead from our house, and we had a 500% increase in 1 year. So doubled our mortgage.
Wow.
So yeah, so we sold that house because trying to keep onto it. But also we bought that house at $1,000 and we ended up selling it because we lost our homestead and they went, "Oh, your house is worth $400,000 now. So here you go." So it was kind of a shock to us. It's more expensive than obviously here in Georgia. I think it went from $1,000 a year to over $5,000 a year in 1 year. So it was tough.
Yeah, and I hear from people up north it's even higher.
Yeah.
I don't want to quote any numbers because I do not live there or sell real estate there. But I think that the tax laws are very local, and you just want to make sure that you are aware of them, right? There are some other things for taxes that you can do, like deduct your mortgage interest payments on your taxes. You should be aware about capital gains tax and how they'll affect your financial situation. This is not something that a real estate agent will advise you on unless they also have a CPA or a tax degree.
Yeah,
This is something that you're going to have to go to a professional and ask because it has huge ramifications. Just like Jonathan was saying, this was their primary residence and then they went to sell it. Well, good news. If it was your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years, you're exempt from capital gains up to $250,000. But you have to know that and you have to change it. It may be that you don't want to sell until you have a low tax year or until something is going on. So definitely
that was actually something. Sorry. That's why we sold when we did, because we started looking at that like, oh my goodness, if we do this for another year, then we have capital gains tax and we don't want to pay capital gains tax myself. So we needed the money to buy our current home. It wasn't, so that was one of those things like we started doing the math and going, if we're going to sell, we got to sell now. The tax ramifications can be huge, so.
it changes it a lot, and you can sell now or you can plan to pay that money, and so whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So number 10, will virtual real estate tours replace in-person viewing?
I think situationally for sure. There are definitely times when people can't get to the house, and now that I guess I hate to say thanks to the pandemic. Is that terrible to say?
I mean at this point, good and bad came out of it.
Definitely changed. Let's be honest, everything. So because of the pandemic, people couldn't get into houses, and there was prices were changing so fast. And if you didn't get it now, it was going to be a different price. It was just a hectic time. And part of that was virtual tours became more relied upon than they used to be. So I think there's definitely more of it now than there used to be. But for me, I have to see it in person. I know there are people in situations that can't, and it helps.
This is the same guy that bought a house from me without seeing it in person until he was under contract.
Well, my wife saw it in person. That's different. Someone saw the house. I didn't see.
But you see what I'm saying, though, right? No, you're right. If somebody is local, I do not think a virtual tour will replace a physical in-person showing. Because who doesn't want to see the house? But when there are situations like back then, Jonathan, you were still in Florida, so coming up here over and over again, the way she did, or the way she was already working up here, because I think she was staying with friends for a while. It didn't make sense to not see it in person, but for you, it made sense to go for the virtual tour and to see it. It's a wonderful tool. It shows people a lot of things about the house, and I think it's a very good selling tool, and you need it. It is the hurdle that keeps people from going to see your house, or it's the slide that helps people get into your house faster. Mm-hmm. You can choose what it is. There are certain homes that maybe it's better if there's not a virtual tour for. We had a situation recently with a listing where we got there and the photographer said, "Hey, you probably don't want to do a virtual tour on this home. It's not going to show well." And we all agreed, and so we decided not to because there was so much stuff in this house, particularly. You need to decide. That was going to be a hindrance. It was going to keep people from seeing that house, and so we decided not to. But I think virtual tours have come a long way. Even just 5 years ago, a virtual tour was essentially a slideshow. It was pictures that zoomed in and out. Nowadays, virtual tours are actually 3D. Is it Matterport that you can technically use now with the Metavision Do you know what I'm talking about? The 3D. And so it integrates into the 3D technology. And you want to talk about a real virtual tour? No, that's a real virtual tour.
Yeah.
I haven't done it myself, but I heard that they have integrated now and that they will do that with meta glasses. Am I saying that right? Or that's what they're called? Yeah, they're the 3D
tried-
ultimate reality like
I tried
glasses.
virtual reality one time. My niece and nephew got a headset thing. It instantly made me dizzy. Like it threw off my equilibrium. And so I took it off and it felt weird. I did not enjoy it. It messed with something and I'll never be the same. No, but it really did. Like it made it like it I don't want to say it made me seasick, but it did like it because of the motion, but I wasn't moving. It's not for everyone. That's for sure.
In the South, we'll say, well, bless your heart.
Thank you.
So I think we're getting an agreement on this one. No, virtual showings will not replace in-person showings. However, they do have a place and they're here to stay.
Yeah,
and if your house looks good, you should do it to sell it. It's really, really important.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like when I do like when the last listing or current listing, I get that if it's the house is ready to show and the option is there, you want to do it because people want to get an like some people can't when you're looking at pictures. This is the best way to say it. They can't visualize the layout of the house, but when you get a virtual tour and they can actually go from room to room and figure out what's going on and vision themselves in the house, it either A, makes them decide this isn't the layout that I want and they don't look at the house at all and it doesn't waste the realtor time and everything, or after they do their virtual tour, like, let's see this in person. This is a layout that I like the way the room shows, and let's go do it. So it can definitely be a selling point to a lot of buyers that still probably want to see it in person if it's an option.
Yes. Now this next one, this was interesting. Number 11. How can I choose the best real estate agent in 2025?
Well, they've been listening to us for 45 minutes, right?
You've already found us. We're great. Yeah.
We're right here.
I will put a plug in that choosing the right agent will completely change your buying and selling process. And I do think that it is super important. I talk to people all the time and I smile and nod and I hear their experiences and I think, wow, your agent did not protect you. They did not look ahead at the road, right? If your transaction is a road, they did not look ahead and they did not see the speed bumps that are coming and they did not prepare you and you hit them, boom, right? Like you hit them too hard. It didn't make your deal fall apart, but it just could have been a lot smoother and a lot easier.
Yeah, it could have prepped you better. Yeah, interview a lot of people. Don't just go, oh, I have an agent because my friend's mother's an agent or my cousin's an agent, because let's be honest, most agents only sell an average of 2 houses a year. That doesn't make them the best option. You definitely want someone that's prepared for anything coming your way. And I would talk to several people, not just a friend of a friend or whatever. Interview them, don't get me wrong. Take their reference, talk to them, and see what they're like. They may be a great option for you, but it's good to talk to several people before making your decision. I'm a big fan of that,
Yeah, I think you need to look at their agent knowledge in their specific area. If they are not in your area, they do not have as much knowledge and they will not be able to help you as much.
Mm-hmm.
Look for reviews, Google reviews, any kind of reviews that you can find on agents makes a big difference. Local expertise, I think, is one of the best. And then I would make sure that your person is technology savvy, maximizing your social media presence. Are they maximizing your internet presence? Do they have a good photographer? What do their pictures look like? I even think you guys have heard me talk about the psychology of selling. I really feel like we've moved away from that, like 3999 999 999. And we moved to a place where we are looking at properties based on slider bars, where people are sliding in $5,000 and $10,000 increments, and that it could really benefit you for listing with zeros behind it. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the places where, an agent who is in the market and can talk to you about statistics and local numbers and local information is going to make a big difference. So I say local, tech savvy, and you want somebody that has that drive. Yeah. Those would be the 3 things.
On top of that, usually buying a house isn't a quick in and out process. It can take months, So you have to be able to, I like to think that I get along with everybody and I'm the perfect agent, but let's be honest, there are people out there that our personalities are not going to get along. And although I'm really like to think that I'm getting really good at my job and looking ahead and getting everything taken care of, there are certain people that are just not going to get along with my personality. You know what I mean? They're going to want somebody that's more stringent and not making jokes all the time and being silly. So you have to get along with your agent because you're going to go through it with them. There are a lot of emotions in real estate. So having someone that you can also gel with, I mean, professionalism and all that is very, very important. Don't get me wrong. It's, if you had to choose between someone that you get along with, but is terrible at real estate and someone that's really good at real estate, that's a little harder to get along with, still to choose someone that's really good at real estate. But if you can get along with them too, that's an added plus. You know, you want to get along with their personality and be able to be comfortable in a house with that person and be able to trust them. And, you know, that's really important, you know, because it is a relationship. And as you can see between Lauren and I, after buying the house, we still talk.
You know, Jonathan, I don't know that you know this, but in my personal business plan, the one I have for myself, that only my eyes see, I actually have an asshole clause in my business plan that says that I have permission to not work with someone or to cancel a contract with a buyer or a seller that treats me a certain way. And I call it my asshole contract because
actually really
I
important.
do not want to work with assholes. And I don't want to, I am an adult. I am a professional. I have years of experience. I am also a broker. I know this industry in and out, and I am not going to work with somebody who raises their voice at me.
That's a good point. So yeah, as a seller or a buyer, it's good to interview your real estate agent and choose someone that chooses for you. But also as an agent, you don't have to say yes. Yeah, there's money signs when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to help them. But just because you could make money working with this person doesn't mean you have to. You're allowed to turn down any client. If you can see this is going to be a problem, we're going to butt heads going through this buying process or selling process, and you're going to have a hard time with each other, you don't have to put yourself through that either. You know what I mean? So just because the client chooses you doesn't mean you have to choose that client. Does that make sense? You got to protect yourself too.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So our last question, number 12, what
Ooh, we made it.
We made it. What are the building trends, the green building trends for 2025?
So a lot of these are changing. One I heard a couple of years ago that is gaining steam is a product called hempcrete, where they take the hemp fibers and put it in with the concrete. It's supposed to up the RA rating, so it's more insulated. It's supposed to make it more durable, obviously more financially doable. So that's a big one that I kind of ran into. We were taking a vacation in Colorado, and we sat down at this breakfast table, and this guy was a construction worker, and that's what his whole thing was, this stuff called hempcrete, and we knew nothing about it, and he just started telling us about it, and we ended up doing research on it and Googling it, and like, oh, that's really wild, you know. Obviously Colorado is a little different phase than we are in Georgia, but
Well, we still have a lot of timber in Georgia.
yeah.
And so I think and we also have a lot of mud here. And so we have brick factories in Georgia. So brick and timber are still king in Georgia. However, they have taken our traditional siding and they have made it, there's a cement siding. There's several different companies. One of the ones that we talk a lot about is Hardy Plank, but there's lots of different companies, and it's a cement siding board, and they take the wood pulp and mix it with cement. It's way more durable. It doesn't wood rot. It's much more sustainable, and it uses less trees to make the houses. So there's a little bit of locality, because realistically, green means not shipping products from one part of the world to another, right? Using local materials, and that may be more timber down here in the South, or more brick, or more concrete in Florida. Depending on what materials that are locally available, we actually can mine the ingredients to make concrete here in Georgia. And so it's very available around here. And so I think that, locality, but also these great things that are coming up, like the hempcrete. I think it's important to pay attention to those. I think we also can look at things like what type of piping we're using. We're seeing a lot more PEX piping, and that piping allows for easier installation, which makes it go faster, and that's easier. We're looking at high efficiency systems, from water heaters to HVAC. That's a great way. We've changed the Freon laws, so our Freon is more
Environmentally friendly. Yeah.
Environmentally, yeah, I was like, oh, environmentally friendly. And we're just doing different things. Our insulation rating has changed so that the houses don't have to work so hard to stay cool or stay hot. Windows are a big deal. If you have the old windows, it's probably your number one source of energy leakage in your house.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of really cool building trends out there, and figuring out which one fits for you is a great one. I've also seen more like raw concrete in houses than I ever have before. And I would caution you, make sure that your house is properly supported before you pour lots of pounds of concrete. But it's also cool to see some of those acid treatments in basements and things on concrete floors that look really interesting. And a lot more sustainable things are more accepted now that were not considered accepted maybe with previous generations. So I'm excited to see what's out there and what else can be done. I think that kind of wraps up our 12 questions, although I do have someone who wanted to come and tell a joke to us. Do we have time for a joke?
We have time.
Okay. What did the monster say to the gas pump?
What did the monster say to the gas pump? I don't know.
Don't stick your finger in your ear while I'm talking.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I
like
like
when you put it in your car.
Yeah,
Like, it's like on the thing, and it looks like
yeah.
there's...
Yeah, makes sense.
And do you have another one?
Yeah.
Let's see if Sure. Go ahead. What about the T-Rex? What was the T-Rex?
Jonathan, do you want to hear one about ants and the British or T-Rex?
T-Rex for sure. Dinosaurs always win.
Okay. Why did the T-Rex cross the road?
No, it's a road crossing one. I never get these right. Go ahead.
Because the chicken was not feeling well.
That's a good one too.
Can you tell our people to make sure to like and subscribe?
Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a pop quiz for you, Lauren.
Uh-huh.
13th question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep, we're ready.
What do people do to win that Yeti cooler we're giving away?
All they have to do is click the link below, fill out the information, and you're entered to win a Rode 24 Yeti cooler.
All right, everybody. Have a fantastic one, and we'll catch you all next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.